Good morning.
I'm Dee Brennan. This is the RAILS June member update. So we got a lot of people attending from a lot of different places, which is great. But also means that it might be difficult to get a word in edgewise. So you have to be assertive and just start talking, and we'll pay attention. So as always, we also have people who are participating on RAILS Live. So we may get email questions from them, and I think that our wonderful Mary Witt is in Vernon, I believe, and will let me know if we have questions or comments from there. Okay, so I think without further ado, we will begin with the welcome and introductions, and so we will start that with Bolingbrook.
Good morning, everyone. Joe Philippek, RAILS.
Ed Snelly, RAILS.
Louise Savela, RAILS.
Thank you. And Burr Ridge, we got lots of people here. So, and you know, some people insist upon sitting back by the wall. But
notice no one sit next to me.
And no one's sitting next to me or Veranda. But oh well. So we're going to start over there with Karen, if you wouldn't mind. Karen.
Hi, Karen from Talking Books.
Grace from Talking Books. Mary Weiner from Moreland.
And you do have to speak up when you're back there because you're kind of far from the mics. Yes. Sorry.
Nancy from Wheaton Public Library.
Sarah Horn from Sandwich Library.
Marianne Lama from Prairie Trails Public Library.
Sherry from Prairie Trails Library.
Ryan Hebel, RAILS.
I guess we'll go here now.
Hi, Keisha Hester from the Broadview Public Library District.
Keisha Garnett from the Berwyn Public Library.
Julie Rothen from the Naperville Public Library.
Veranda, RAILS.
Ann Slaughter, RAILS.
Dee Brennan.
Sue Quinn from River Forest Library.
Mark Hatch from RAILS.
Meg Klinkow-Hartman from South Holland.
Robin Wagner from South Holland.
Brian Smith from RAILS.
Karen Keefe, Hinsdale.
Lisa Knasha, Hinsdale. Pam Dubay, Woodridge.
Juanita Durkin, Justice.
All right. And what about Coal Valley?
Good morning. This is Laura Long from East Moline.
Angela Campbell, Rock Island.
Jeff Stafford, Robert Jones, Coal Valley.
Claire Crawford, Geneseo Public Library.
Leanne Bredberg, Andalusia Township Library.
Nancy Ashbrook, Silvis Public Library.
All right, thank you. East Peoria.
Good morning. We have several here. Erica Laughlin, RAILS RSA.
Martha Coxell, RAILS RSA.
Bill Kamenecki, St. Francis College of Nursing.
Becky Rundle, St. Francis College of Nursing.
Grant Frederickson, Illinois Prayer, Metamora.
Larissa Good, Warren County Public Library.
Thank you. I don't think there's anybody in Rockford. So we will move on to the Aurora Public Library.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Kevin?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, this is Kevin Davis from the Messenger Public Library in North Aurora.
Pierre Gregoire from the Frankfurt Public Library.
Renee Anderson from RAILS.
Daisy Porter Reynolds, Aurora Public Library.
Heather Sturm, Aurora Public Library.
Okay, thank you. How about anybody in Cherry Valley?
Yes, good morning. This is Jane Lenzer from the Cherry Valley Public Library.
Debbie Bloom from Ida Public and Belvedere.
Cynthia Cole, Nippersink Public Library in Richmond.
Great, thank you. Freeport. See a bunch of people there.
Hi there. This is Laura from Freeport Public Library.
Deb Wunsch from Elizabeth Library.
Laura Watson, Highland Community College.
Great, thank you. Galesburg.
Good morning. Harriet Zipfel from Public Library.
Hi, Harriet.
Howdy.
Nobody at ILA, I guess. Kankakee. I see somebody at Kankakee.
Good morning, Melissa Landis from Kankakee Public Library.
Thank you. LaSalle.
Nikki Isaacson from Paw Paw Public Library. Julie Whalen from Princeton Public Library.
Thank you, New Lenox. I think it looks like we have a crowd in New Lenox.
Hello from New Lenox. This is Pilar Shaker.
Maureen Borman, Peatone Public Library.
Lauren Offerman, Three Rivers Public Library District.
Debbie Baskey, Rails.
Colleen Waldman, Blue Island Public Library.
Zach Musil, Acorn Public Library District.
Helene Marzek, Joliet Public Library.
Rose Gilman, Chicago Ridge Public Library.
Jill Grasso, Beecher Community Library.
Tiffany Apschel, Crete Public Library.
Paul Mills, Fountaindale Public Library, and Rails Board Member.
Jenny System Mills, Shorewood Troy Public Library.
Trina Harris, Riverdale Public Library.
Megan Millen, Flossmoor Public Library.
Kathy Parker, Glenwood, Linwood, and Rails Board Member. I don't want to beat up one up by Paul.
Amy Crump, Homewood Public Library. Kathy Burkhardt, Madison Area Public Library.
All right, thank you. Quincy, anybody at Quincy?
This is Nancy Dolan, Quincy Public Library.
And this is Melissa DeBerger from the Blessing Health Professions Library.
Great. Nice to see and hear you, Quincy. Sometimes we have an issue with that. Sterling.
Hi, this is Cindy Brockman from Sauk Valley Community College. Jennifer Patterson from Sauk Valley Community College.
Great. How about Sycamore?
Barb Coward, Cortland Community Library.
Peggy Wogan, Malta Township.
Christy Shear, Creston DeMatt Public Library.
Nancy Radke, Clinton Township Public Library.
That's all.
Okay, great. Thank you. And Vernon.
Good morning, Dee. This is Mary Wood from Rails, and I'll let my colleagues introduce themselves.
I'm Catherine Lemmer from Lake Forest.
Scott Davis, Fremont Public Library District.
Ryan Livergood, Warren Newport Public Library.
Sarah Murray, Algonquin Area Public Library District.
Diane McNulty, Cary Area Public Library District.
Cindy Furia Public Library District.
And that's it from Vernon.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, so we got a lot of things on the agenda today, so I'm just going to jump right in.
The State Library.
Oh, I'm sorry. I apologize very much. They're not on the list here. The Illinois State Library.
Hi, good morning.
Sorry, guys.
And Sharon Ruda.
Great, thank you very much. Very sorry about that. Oh, there you are. There's so many sites that I'm just sort of overwhelmed here. Okay, now we're done, right? Yes. Okay. Thank you, Mark. Thank you, Sue. Oh, okay. So, the first item on the agenda is to talk about our plan of service for 2017 and the budget as well. So I guess I'll start out by saying that obviously everybody probably knows we don't have a state budget, so we don't really have an official RAILS budget either, obviously. But we remain hopeful and optimistic that all of this will be worked out in the not too distant future. In the meantime, though, we were one of the libraries were awarded some money this fiscal year, unlike many other organizations. And for RAILS, that meant about a little under $6 million, which is a little under 60% of our annual funding. So because we have been very prudent as our board members can attest to, we have a sizable reserve. And so even with that decrease so far in our funding, we are able to cover at least another 2 years worth of operations. At current levels of activity, if we don't get any more money ever. So that means that we should keep on doing what we're doing at this point, because we have no reason not to. Because, as I said, we have this healthy reserve and every expectation that we will receive funding going forward. So for FY 2017, the State Library did ask us to use the fiscal 16 number as our budget baseline. And so we are, of course, doing that. But our board also has voted to, or will officially vote next week, actually, but has directed us in the meantime, the staff, to create a budget that continues important services and uses some of our reserves, but is still very prudent, so that if we do, for example, receive only the same amount of funding that we got this year at the end of do all the projects that are in our budget for FY 2017, at the end of 2017, we would have still almost 2 years of operating income. So that's kind of the big picture. So in terms of the actual projects, a lot of the things that we're going to be doing are obviously continuing to do important things that we've been doing. For example, support for LSAPs. We have, over the past couple of years, developed a program where we give grants to libraries to join the LSAPs, and that has been extremely popular. A lot of libraries have taken advantage of it. 8 libraries out in the Quad City areas, area actually recently rejoined Prairie Cat, as an example, and there was a lot of financial support for that project that came from RAILS, as well as from the member libraries. We're going to keep working on the overlay project. We're putting a group together to do some work on that. We're going to continue with our continuing education and consulting. We're continuing to do cooperative purchasing, and also to purchase e-content for our shared collection. But there are also some new things that I thought I would make you aware of that are, I think you'll find exciting and interesting. For example, we are, as part of our consortia committee, we're establishing some working groups to look at different aspects of consortia work and ways that things could be improved or streamlined, or just generally to help the LSAPs or the consortia do a better job serving their customers. So the first group that we're putting together is a cataloging work group. We're going to look at ways that we can, with catalogers actually going to be on this group because they're the experts in this area, and they're going to be looking at ways that we can assist RAILS, that is, and the consortia committee, assist the LSAPs in doing cataloging work and training in cataloging. Another example is something that is out there right now, which is a museum pass program, but it's limited, I guess, in the number of museums and in the number of libraries that can participate. We're looking to see if we can do something that's larger and more accessible, that would include more institutions around the state. There are ways of doing, a number of states have this in place, including Michigan, and I think California has one?
Khalifa, yeah.
Yeah, and so there are these online ways you can do this, so we're going to look into that. We're also, thanks to Veranda, we have purchased, what's the best way to put this? We are going to be participating in the Gale Online High School.
Yes.
We sort of have purchased the, have paid for the startup cost.
Yeah, I can. Would you like me?
Yeah, just a little bit. Yep.
Gale Career Online High School, in case those who aren't familiar with it, is an opportunity for libraries to provide access to an online high school diploma, unlike a general equivalency exam. And it's done, and there are scholarships that a library would purchase to participate in it. In Fountaindale has been a library that's done it, so Paul could speak specifically to it. Before a student would come to your library to use it, the process is before they can enter into the program and start the high school diploma, they would complete an assessment portion of the program, which would assess their readiness for, doing something online. Are there any issues that prevent that person, learning issues that would prevent them? So there's an assessment piece that they would finish before starting the actual curriculum of the program. So what RAILS has done is purchase the assessment piece, and the libraries have an opportunity to purchase scholarships themselves, either from Gale. We have a limited number of scholarships as well, and we're going to be working to roll those out, how we'll make those available to RAILS members, likely because we want to make this access available to libraries of all sizes, and the cost is a little prohibitive otherwise. We're trying to find another way that we could subsidize access to these scholarships as well.
Thank you, Veranda.
Oh, my pleasure. Just one other quick, I don't
Sorry,
know if...
I thought you were done. Silly me.
Yes. Hour two. No. I was just going to say I wanted to thank Nancy and Quincy, because one of the questions on the table for a lot of members was if this was an accredited, to make sure it's accredited in Illinois. And thanks to Nancy and Quincy, she put me in touch with some ISB, Illinois School Board of Education representatives. So I've talked with their general counsel. I've talked with ICCB, the Illinois Community College Board as well. And I will additionally talk with the Illinois Board of Higher Education, which works with adult education. So, and none of them have said no. So, and I'm happy to give you guys specifics on that another time. We're also, because we really want to position RAILS members as education partners in their community, we'll be doing a demo on July 13th on a testing program for high school equivalency, so that people would have an opportunity to have their public in either working on an online high school degree, or for folks who fall into that category of wanting to do the equivalency exam. So that program that I'm working with Joe, who is our continuing education manager on, is an adult education expert who will be talking about the changes in adult education and this testing software, and it's from a nonprofit company. It's called iPathways, and you can register for that in L2. And the Kankakee Area Library Association will be is our partner in sponsoring that.
Thank you very much. That's a lot more than I knew, and I think that this is going to be very interesting to lots of libraries, because no matter where you are, what size of your community, you have residents there who could benefit from this. Yep. So, thank you, Veranda. Let's see. So then I think a lot of you probably know that we're taking on the Illinois Library Delivery Service, which is the kind of the backbone service. On July 1, we were the successful bidder on this, along with Heartland. I'm not going to say any more right now because that's on the agenda later. Mark's going to give you a few highlights. Same thing with Illinois Talking Book Outreach Center. The RAILS board did vote to fund that service through the RAILS budget next year, because there is no more state funding for ITBOC starting in 2017. I'll talk a little bit more about that later on in the agenda as well. An additional interesting project that's kind of similar to the scholarships, in my mind anyway, is that we're going to be offering mini grants to different sort of groups of libraries maybe, or groups of multi-type libraries to do sort of demonstration collaborative projects in their communities or beyond their communities. This is actually an idea that Debbie Baskey's been thinking about, and one of our board members, Laura Turner, she's a special librarian from Caterpillar down in Peoria. She's very excited about this. So this is not that fleshed out yet, but we think this is going to be a great way of encouraging a multi-type collaboration locally, and providing some models for how that can work in larger areas. Some of you who've been around Illinois libraries, and especially in this area for a while, know that the Burr Ridge building, the building that I'm sitting in right now, has pretty much looked the same since 1980. If John Sayers, a former board member and the director in Kewanee, were at the meeting, he would say that it looks pretty much exactly the same as when he was the director in Forest Park in the 1980s. And so we have been finding out over the last few months that we are not meeting code related to accessible bathrooms, etc. In our bathrooms, that we're getting regularly dinged by our insurance inspectors and the fire department because of the carpet that is fraying throughout the building. So we're going to have to put some money into this building. Nothing particularly fancy, that's for sure. Probably you won't see a lot of what we will have to do. But now that we have fixed the outside, the panels that hold the building up, so now that it's not going to fall down, you laugh, but it's true, and that the roof is no longer leaking onto the server room, it is now time to move on to some of the internal issues that we have. So that is going to be, it's exciting to the staff in Burr Ridge, that's for sure, but there might actually be an updated bathroom after I don't even know how many years. We're going to keep working on membership standards. We've applied for a digitization training grant, an IMLS grant. We'll hear about that later in the year, so we'll be working on that if we get the grant. Also, a successful partner on a IMLS grant that Minitex and a bunch of other, well, not a bunch, a few other organizations like ours partnered on, including New York Public Library, I forget who else, Massachusetts Library System, anyway, to develop a sort of a universal approach to ebook content, to access it. So we'll see how that goes. Continuing education and consulting. The state library has, we're so thankful for this, been able to work with the Board of Education so that they, and through the state library, the systems can offer professional development hours for school library staff. So we're going to be doing that. We have been working with a number of librarians, some in this room or in other rooms, on a sort of a reunion event for Synergy this year. So a lot of you probably got invited to that. We hope that you'll be there. Betsy Adamowski, the ILA president, has been leading that endeavor. And we just had a meeting earlier this week with Betsy and Kathy Parker and Joe Philippek and I to talk about what to do about the fact that there's no SPLME, no statewide public Library Management Institute, and so Kathy Parker, one of our board members, and Betsy are chairing a group, or are about to start chairing a group that's going to work on that. Probably not this year, not for this year, but I think that Ann Craig told me that, or told a lot of us that there are already about 70 new library directors in Illinois, and that's a group of people that we need to help. So that's most of the list. As you can see, there's a lot going on, which makes us very happy at RAILS because we love to provide service, love to do a good job for all of our members. So I think I will stop right there and let people ask questions if they have them, or make comments, or whatever. Yes, Mary.
You were talking about a consortium with the LSAP, the cataloging group. Is this going to include standalone libraries?
Well,
it does, the cataloging work group.
Let's repeat the question because probably people didn't hear it.
Some kind of sharing of cataloging resources, I imagine, or do some training. Are you going to include standalone?
I'm just going to repeat it for the group. That's what I meant. So Mary Weimar has asked a question about the cataloging work group and if we're going to be including standalone libraries, and Ann Slaughter is going to respond.
It is a work group of the consortia committee, but we do, I believe, have at least one member of the group who's from a standalone library. We asked for volunteers and recommendations for the group, and Paul Mills, the consortia committee chair, has made the appointments, and I'm going to be confirming them this week, so we don't have final.
How were they determined to get volunteers?
We asked via our consortia managers. It is a work group of the consortia committee.
So nothing went out to the directors saying, we're having a committee, are you interested?
I
don't believe that there was a general call for volunteers. I think, Mary, this is sort of an ongoing discussion that we have. It's a consortia committee. This does not in any way mean that we are not interested in helping standalone libraries. On the other hand, because obviously we are, on the other hand, I don't think that anybody would deny, especially people who are in consortia, that there are special problems that you face with keeping a database good, clean, et cetera, when you're in a consortium. And the sort of the shared cataloging that goes on, the different levels of training and knowledge in different libraries, and so that's something that we're going to try to assist with. And we certainly know that that some of our LSAPs have issues with this, have difficulties, so we want to help them. Obviously, anything that we learn from this, we would be more than happy to share with the membership at large. So I'm going to just, pass the buck a little bit here to Paul Mills, who's the chair of the consortia committee. Paul, would you like to say anything in response to Mary's question?
No, Dee, I really think you covered it well. As you and stated.
Wait, we can't. Wait, Paul.
Okay.
We can't hear you. There was a little feedback there. All right, take it away.
Microphone.
Okay.
I think Mary, addressing Mary, I'm addressing you. I think Dee and Ann explained it very succinctly. This came out of the consortia committee, which was a committee formed to deal with issues and concerns that are very specific to consortia. And I know you used to be in a consortia. There's different issues, different conditions arise, and we're focused on that. I would just echo what Dee said. Whatever we learn, because we are all our librarians, we would certainly share with the entire RAILS membership. But our origin here is to focus on issues specific to cataloging in consortia.
Thanks, Paul. Does that help, Mary? Sure. Apparently not. Okay, we'll talk later. Okay, other questions here? Yes.
I just have a question about the Museum Pass program.
Yes.
You were saying that you were
trying to expand it?
Yes.
Has there been, and maybe you've tried in the past and it's been shot down, but has there been any attempt to include the Chicago libraries like Science and Industry and the Aquarium? Because that's our #1 request, and it's a very popular program. I mean, our patrons love it.
Sure. This is a question about the Museum Pass program and about whether the Chicago museums would be included, or more of them will be included because they're so popular. As a matter of fact, we have had a number of conversations.
We've had some preliminary conversations through Chicago Public Library, who has a separate Museum Pass program, and they so we've had these preliminary conversations about the opportunity to expand it throughout, but they're just preliminary conversations. Again, we would want to work with our partners at Chicago Public, since they have that intact relationship with those museums, but they're open to that conversation.
Thank you.
It's a difficult issue because the museums have their own needs and agenda, and we have to understand that. But we're also very aware that we have many members who have residents who aren't near Chicago, and so we're trying to emulate some of the other states that have, for example, in Michigan, they have a really big program that includes a lot of state parks, just kind of the cultural institutions and natural resource kinds of places throughout the state. And so I think that's an approach that we're trying to take. We would love to get the Chicago museums, obviously. And I think in Michigan they do have the Detroit Art Museum, as I recall, but I don't think they have all of the big Detroit museums. Yes, Meg.
Just on that idea, is any analytical statistics on how many extra people show up when you give out a few free passes, so that the institution that's getting these, having to give away free, is also receiving more participants or whatever? Is there any analysis ever done on that? Because that would be a persuasive way of opening up the dialogue a little more with these bigger museums who are
right. I think there's a question about data from use of the museums. I think one of the great advantages that we have seen in these other models that we're interested in is that they have incredible data. They don't obviously identify people by name or anything like that, but they can identify by zip code. And that's something that museums are always very interested in, because they use that kind of data when they apply for grants, or to tell their boards as well. So, yes.
The Museum Pass program is wonderful. Our library loves it, but the fee structure seemed to be not balanced, because the same amount of passes were given to every single library, and yet the larger libraries had to pay more, but got no more passes than the other ones. And all I'd like to do is, if you're investigating and restructuring it, that equitable fee structure matching number of passes is looked at. Thank you.
Right. Thank you, Mary. Mary, a point about a more equitable fee structure would be welcome, and that's absolutely true.
There's one more question.
Yes.
I just have one last thing. It might be maybe a good conversation to have with some of those big museums, is that maybe their passes might be limited to their slowest days.
To their what?
They're really slow on Wednesdays and Thursdays. Oh. Maybe, those are the days they need to beef up a little bit, so you can say, okay, we have the pass for the aquarium, but it's only good on Wednesdays and Thursdays. So,
that's a good, thank you.
Yeah, it might be
negotiation point.
Yeah, so they're not just overwhelmed.
To create a win for them. To create a win for them. Yeah.
Sure.
Right.
Comment on. Yes.
Oh, I'm
Scared
sorry.
me,
Did I
yes.
interrupt someone? We do have a question here from Vernon when you're ready.
I was just going to say that there was just a last comment here in Burr Ridge about, maybe not a last comment, but a comment about maybe looking at less busy days for museums would be a negotiating point. So yes, a question in Vernon.
Hi, this is Scott from Fremont. Just a question for everybody out there. Has anyone heard from the Comptroller's Office regarding the release of 2016 per capita funds, hopefully before the end of our fiscal year? Any updates? Any idea if they're going to release those funds this year?
I don't know.
Anyone?
No. Does anybody know?
No one in Springfield to answer?
Library, do you have any information about this?
No, we've had no information. This is Deborah Aggert at the Illinois State Library. No information. We will let you know if we hear anything.
Thank you.
Thank you, Deb. Sorry, Scott.
We didn't spend it anyway.
Okay. All right, so yes, Heather, question here.
Back to the museum pass question a little bit. While you're discussing with area museums about the pass program, is there a possibility of you opening up the discussion a little bit to talk about rotating exhibits in libraries as well from area museums as part of the partnership?
Oh, maybe. So a suggestion of rotating museum exhibits in libraries as part of the partnership. It's a great idea. Okay. Any questions, any other questions here or at any of the sites? I'm not going to go around because right now, because there's so many of you. Yes, Mary.
You said you're looking to upgrade construction, and carpet and whatever. Are you allowed to apply for the Live and Learn construction grants as a system?
I don't know.
I just, having been.
It's a good question. Might as well find out, right? If we're eligible for Live and Learn construction, that'd be funny. Mark's writing it down. All right. Any questions anywhere else? Speak up. You'll have more opportunity, but. Okay. Then, let me see where we are here. The agenda. We are at ILDS. So I'll just open this up. As I said, we were the successful bidder with Heartland, and also CTS as a subcontractor, I guess. So this starts on July 1st, and Mark's going to tell us a little bit more about it.
Thank you, and good morning. Back in December of 2015, we did apply to an RFP that was administered by the University of Illinois.
Just be sure you speak up.
Okay. In Urbana-Champaign, on behalf of Carly, provide delivery services to all of their members. In March of this year, we were actually notified and awarded the business, which was outstanding. We did a lot of work on that. In order to cover the entire city, we knew we needed to partner with other entities to pull this off. So we've actually, as Dee stated, we are actually partnering with Heartland, our sister company, and then also with Continental Transport Solution. We started meeting weekly once we were notified that we were awarded the business. And that meeting actually included Carly as well, the Carly staff as well. We started to meet weekly primarily just to brainstorm, make sure that all of our ducks are in a row. The conversion that takes place on July 1 goes over smoothly, which is a Friday, by the way, which is a very unusual day to start a conversion, but it is what it is, and we will make it happen. In order to pull this off, we also needed to order additional vehicles, additional staff, because the volume is additional 2 million items across the state that will be moving. The window will stay the same as Carly has right now, between 8 and 5, 8 a.m. and 5 p.m., unless otherwise you allow us in early, which is always a wonderful thing. The earlier we get in, the sooner we can get back. So that window will remain the same. In order, part of the contract also was everything had to be processed and delivered within 24 hours, which is creates a logistics nightmare when you're talking about the entire state. So you're talking about quite a few miles. So we, in the process of brainstorming this stuff, we realized that we needed to have night routes, shuttles, moving material between service centers. Okay, I'm sorry, I have to speak up even more.
You should sit right there next to the mic.
Sit right over here, you know.
You should have been all along.
Yeah.
I'm glad it's not just me.
I was even further from the mic. And
Right, and that's still a problem. I'm sorry.
Now.
This is Rails Unplugged.
Let's see. Since I was interrupted by Ms. Veranda there, I'll start over. No, I'm just kidding. I won't start over. But the business is going to include delivery to 41 locations throughout the state. So we've hired additional staff of 11 drivers, sorters to make this happen, and we're in essence changing our operation to a true 24-hour operation. We've utilized our Bolingbrook delivery operation as our hub that is going to accept all of the material. All of these service centers are going to rendezvous into our Bolingbrook facility around 11 p.m. at night, be on hand to receive their material, depart by midnight, return back to their respective service center, sort down the material, and then have it en route the next morning. A true 24-hour turnaround. So it took a lot of work, but we think we've got a good process in place. I can give you the breakdown on how this is actually going to work as well. You know, who's going to do what. You know, Rails is going to take 44 locations, or about 30% of the business. Heartland, our sister company, is going to do about 32 locations, or about 23%. And then Continental Transport Solution, who is CTS, is going to do about 65 locations, or 47% of the work. The one thing that I want to stress is the fact that we're incorporating this work into our existing routes. So what does that mean? That means times are going to change. That means that the times that you have now may not be the time you have as of July 1. So please understand that this is it's a major project that we need to undertake. And the way we route for the most efficient for the operation, you know. So unfortunately, someone has to be first and someone has to be last, unfortunately. So, you know, so please understand that if you've been having a 10 o'clock window, that window may change to 11 or 12 or 1 or 8 in the morning. And we need you guys to understand that, and please work with us as we communicate that. We are doing site visits to all of the new locations, talking with all of the academic libraries to get the ins and outs of where we go in, where they want their material dropped off and things of that nature. Can we get in early if necessary, and so forth and so on. So those are the things that's taking place as of now in July 1. So
the other important thing, Mark, is that since we are driving near or even to, in some cases, these locations, this is going to be, this creates greater efficiency just on that basis alone, and saves some money because we're able to just add things on, as opposed to the previous situation was a whole, you know, separate
Correct.
Contract. So, and, process. So, we're saving the money, so that's always a good thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's, from a logistics standpoint, it definitely makes sense to commingle. To commingle the work primarily because, like Lee said, you are driving right past the majority of these locations. And it costs a lot more and it's so inefficient to have two routes driving right next to each other, waving at each other, going to stops right next door. So it doesn't make financial sense to continue an operation like that. So we've actually done a lot of routing. We've actually got the university, Southern Illinois University, involved with some of our routing as well to look at, to make sure that our routes were as most efficient as possible. And done a lot of work to make sure that this is definitely going to work. And it will work, because we think we've got a lot of experience in this, but naturally, things are going to have to evolve. Things are going to definitely have to take time. The first week or so, may not be perfect. We may not make it exactly at the time in which we've actually stated because we're getting familiar with the route. But as we get more and more familiar with the routes, things are going to get tighter and tighter and tighter to where things are going to flow extremely smooth and well. So, great.
All right.
So that's just a quick
Thank you, Mark.
update. Yes, ma'am.
Will the goal of delivery still be to be outside of library hours?
Well, we've got, the question was about the nighttime delivery. A lot of the people in this room do get, you get your deliveries at night, but out there, that's not so true. So I don't think anything's changing for the outsource time, right?
Right. We're still running, in essence, two operations. We're going to run an AM operation and then a PM operation. So what you've got is the existing public libraries that we've been servicing in the middle of the night will continue to be serviced in the middle of the night. The academics, because of the way the contract is written, we have to run those between 8 to 5. And keep in mind now, we've only got 2 service centers that are under the night shift, the night deliveries anyway, and that is our Burr Ridge and our Wheeling Service Center. The rest of our service centers are all running during the day side. So from that standpoint, nothing would change. Nothing would change on either side. Labeling won't change. Hours, for the current PM routes won't change because it's done in the middle of the night. You guys don't know what time we arrive anyway, so.
Which is a good thing.
Right, which is a good thing, Right.
Right.
So nothing from that standpoint will change. Your PM delivery will still be done at night. Yeah.
Other questions for Mark? Comments anywhere? Yes.
I have a question.
Yes.
Does this mean that we'll have 24-hour turnaround on requests? What is that? I didn't understand that part about the 24-hour turnaround.
Well, Harriet, this is for the Illinois, the ILDS, which is essentially a state route that serves the academic institutions in Carly.
Correct.
So it's a requirement of their contract that they get 24-hour turnaround time.
Okay.
So it's a separate, I'm hoping that we get 24-hour turnaround on a lot of things.
Correct. By creating the centralized delivery hub in Bolingbrook, we now have the ability to have items turned around a lot quicker because what you've got is you've got all of the service centers, converging, at one time, transferring their material and then going back to their service centers to sort that night for delivery the next day. So we're hoping to include even more material, into that mix of 24-hour turnaround because of that, meeting point in Bolingbrook. So,
right.
So we moved. For this fiscal year, we've moved about 9.6 million items already. So
Rails.
And within Rails. So then you include the additional 2.5 million, from the from the academics, that's a lot of material that we're hoping to be able to turn around within 24 hours. So, yeah.
Other questions, comments, anywhere? Here, there, anywhere. All right, then.
Great.
Thank you, Mark.
Anytime.
So, okay, so as I had mentioned earlier, we talked about LSAPs and support to them. We have the consortia committee and the board did approve a new definition of LSAP, and which expands it to, in my opinion, groups that should have always been considered LSAPs because they fit the definition. So I'm going to let Ann talk about what is going to happen there.
Okay, so we anticipate adding support for additional LSAPs. That's in addition to the 4 LSAPs we currently support, which are Prairie Cat, Swan, and RSA. That support would begin July 1st, 2017 for fiscal 18. So we're in the process of developing an application process that we will be announcing and providing more information about in September. Include a way for us to become more intimately acquainted with any interested group and verify that, as is stated in the LSAP definition, that they're committed to multi-type resource sharing as well as growth, at which point we'll move into determining what our support will be. We are also developing a formula for allocating the support that we have available for any LSAPs based on factors that are measurable and support various values. We're also determining any in-kind services we would offer that consortia would have the option to take advantage of, and then would enter into a contractual agreement with any potential new LSAPs. So again, we'll have more concrete information out about that in the fall, with the process beginning at that point and support for new LSAPs beginning July 1st, 2017.
Thank you, Ann.
Thank you.
Questions? A year away, but the point is that we want to be equitable in our support
Dee?
for. Yes.
We have a question here at Vernon.
Okay.
How many LSAPs are potentially out there that could be applying for this grant money? I'm in CCS, so we know about them. How many similar types of organizations that are not already LSAPs would be going after this grant money? Do you know?
Well, how many do we have? Well, that's of course something of a moving target at this point, because Swan and Lincoln Magic are in serious merger talks. So there's 2 that would become part of another one, but we can go through them. There's the Rock River Library Consortium. There is Pinnacle. There is in Northern Illinois. There's no longer Rivershare because they have merged into Prairie Cat. There is CCS, as you said. There is
Link, as you
Link.
mentioned.
So there's fewer, which is a really good thing because they have come together. So how many was that? 4? 3? CCS, Rock River, Northern Illinois, and Pinnacle.
That about covers it. Yeah.
That's it.
Thank you.
Yep. Any other questions? Comments? Okay. All right, so I'm going to update you now about Talking Book Services. And I'm hoping that Sharon Ruda is still on on with us at the State Library in case you have questions that I can't answer, because I don't think Rose is here either. So there have been 3 service areas, or 3 areas providing services for Talking Book and Braille patrons in Illinois. RAILS, which provides the Talking Book Advisory Outreach Center, which is what it sounds like. Our staff spends a lot of time on the phone with patrons, doing a reader's advisory and arranging for them to get material. We also do a lot of outreach to agencies and organizations that serve the blind and physically handicapped. We have a lot of partners in that area. In Heartland, they were the machine lending agency, and in Chicago, they served the city, the residents of the city of Chicago, doing outreach service and doing a reader's advisory service, providing materials, not machines, and book clubs, and they also have an assistive technology center at the Chicago Public Library. So, state funding for Talking Book services is coming to an end in terms of coming to the systems, Chicago, Heartland, and RAILS, on June 30th. And a lot of the service is being consolidated to Springfield in the State Library. They have been circulating a lot of materials there. We did relocate a lot of the collections to Springfield the last time that we had to consolidate Talking Book services, back in 2010, I guess. At this point, Chicago Public Library will be ceasing their services on June 30th, as will Heartland. The RAILS board has voted to include funding for our Talking Book Advisory Outreach Center in the RAILS budget for 2017. That is slightly less than $600,000 annually, which is about 1 month of RAILS operating expenditures, just to give you the scope. So at this point, the State Library is hiring readers advisors, including some that speak Spanish. Let's see. We don't have a plan for 2018. We will spend 2017 figuring that out. We will work with the State Library and Chicago to make sure that we coordinate our services during 2018. In fact, I'm going into Chicago later today to talk about that. Chicago will continue to provide their assistive technology center on an appointment basis, not walk-ins. We will continue to be the advisory outreach center for all Illinois residents, as we have been, except for the city of Chicago. Those calls will now go to the State Library. That's what I know right now. Questions about that? This is very unfortunate, in my opinion, that these services again are being sort of downsized. But at least we're able to do them. And, you know, depending on what the funding is like, maybe we'll be able to continue past 2017, but we cannot make any promises at this point. Yes?
Maybe I misunderstood, but you said that Heartland was responsible for providing the machine.
Yes.
We're still going to provide the advisory services.
Yes.
how are they going to get the machines then? Or
From the state library. I'm sorry if I left that out. Yeah, right. The question was about who is going to lend the machines. That's also going to the state library. Yep. That service in Heartland operated at the DuQuoin building.
so they just consolidate it?
Yep. Yes.
I think in the next year, you would consider possibly using volunteers to provide readers advisory. There's no
Question was whether we would consider using volunteers. I think that we will consider many things. As I think a lot of us know who have run or do run libraries, volunteers are wonderful. Could not live without them, but the point of them being volunteers is that you can't always depend upon them to show up. So we'll have to see what our options are. And I don't know what, as I say, I mean, we don't know what's going to happen in 2018. It maybe, and maybe Sharon would want to speak to this, that the state library would take on all of the all of the services if we can't provide anything at RAILS. Yes, Heather.
So what do you estimate the increase in your population size to be then for your services here at RAILS?
Nothing will change for us.
It won't change the number of...
Our population of the people we serve doesn't change. The number it doesn't change this year. Did you want to say something, Sharon?
Yeah.
Was that you?
This is Sharon. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay. What was your question? You said perhaps that the state library could respond.
Well, if RAILS does cease readers advisory services in 2018, would you take all of that on, do you think, at the state library?
That's our plan, yes.
Okay.
We've already offered jobs to 3.5 days. Hopefully they will all accept and be joining the staff here. We're excited about that. And then if we go forward and into 2018, we will again be hiring readers advisors.
Okay. Thank you, Sharon.
Assisting.
Thank you.
Dee?
Yes.
I have a question from a streamer that maybe Sharon could address also. They're wondering if there are any statistical reports available that would talk about the usage of the talking book service.
Yes, there are. We do monthly statistics that we turn into the federal government, and that tells us not only circulation, but it tells us how many patrons. It's a breakdown of usage throughout the state.
Would those be available for like anybody to view, or where would they view those?
Of course, they're available.
Where would they be, Sharon?
You can contact me and I can send you a packet.
Okay.
We have difficulty posting things on our website, so that's why they're not up there.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Other questions at this point? All right. So we're going to switch gears a bit, and Joe Philippek, who's in Bolingbrook, is going to talk about FOIA Hotline that was launched a few weeks ago. I think we have some anecdotal data. Go ahead, Joe.
Yeah, thanks, Dee. So yes, about 4 weeks ago, RAILS began to promote the availability of what we called the RAILS FOIA Hotline, Freedom of Information Act Hotline. If this is the first you're hearing about it, you can find it on the RAILS website under the Services tab at the top. A bit of background. Last year, around the time that probably just about everybody attending this meeting was dealing with a FOIA request of some kind, we began to think about ways that maybe we could support libraries on the system level. And I know that the ILA Advocacy Committee was also thinking about this, and it was through those various discussions that we arrived at this idea of a FOIA hotline. And part of this came from the fact that we were getting a lot of questions at RAILS from directors and FOIA officers at libraries. I know directors on the Directors Forum were sharing questions, and there was just obviously a lot of conversation in that. Collective brain is good, but we really wanted to try to do something more. So to make this happen, we contracted with Ansel Glank Law Firm, who is making two attorneys available to answer questions from our members related to FOIA, from any director or FOIA officer. And this is for libraries throughout the state. This is a statewide service, so it includes our sister system down south, Heartland. Use of the hotline, of course, is free of cost as a RAILS member. Our hope is that this service will be able to provide some level of, reassurance should you be dealing with a particular FOIA request. Now, the hotline, of course, does have limitations. It's not intended to replace your own legal counsel. It cannot handle very complicated, complex inquiries, but you could think of it more as a reference service related to FOIA. Just maybe to give you an example of the types of questions that are beginning to be asked on the hotline. This came in just the other day from a small public library downstate outside of Springfield. The FOIA officer writes that she's had 3 commercial FOIA requests from one company. They're asking for the same information just within a different time. The information they're requesting is in regards to our vendors, who they are, how much money we've spent on them. My question to you is, when does something become excessive? Although I have read the FOIA law, I'm not quite sure what the exceptions are. And then, of course, the attorney at Ansel Glank responded very thoroughly, but basically to say, kind of out of luck, you need to respond. But those are the types of questions that are intended for the hotline, and there are some examples if you look on our website. So we're committed to having this service in place, I think, through our next fiscal year and hopefully beyond. We oftentimes people maybe know the answers, think they know the answers, probably do know the answers, but to kind of have that reassurance coming from an attorney, I think, is meaningful. So we hope this will be a worthwhile resource, though one that hopefully nobody has to rely on too much. So that is the FOIA hotline. I'll quickly pause. I will say that the FOIA information on the website, the contact information, phone number, email address you can use is protected so that only our members can access it. So you just have to log into the page with your L2 account to be able to get that information. So any questions or comments on that? All right. Well, not hearing any, we can certainly circle back to it. But the other topic on the agenda I was wanting to talk about was the IMLS digitization grant that 2 weeks we applied for. This was for the Laura Bush 21st Century Librarian Program through the Institute of Museum and Library Services. Our grant application is for a 3-year grant that would provide intensive participatory digitization training and would involve partners in Georgia, New Jersey, and the Illinois State Library. The grant itself would be modeled in part off of course, successful iLead USA model in which small cohorts, say 4 or 5 participants per cohort, would go through an intensive training program, both in person and virtually, elements of both, that would conclude with the teams being assigned small, focused digitization projects that would be submitted by libraries, museums, other cultural heritage organizations throughout the state. And obviously this would be happening concurrently in New Jersey and Georgia. So outcomes would ultimately include not only participants receiving this very intensive hands-on training in digitization, but then ultimately these final projects being digitized, included in places like the Illinois Digital Archives and ultimately Digital Public Library of America, which is obviously significant, and the timing is right now with Illinois just becoming a service hub for DPLA. The grant, should we get it, would result in RAILS hiring a digitization training coordinator who would really devote their time to this grant. We would also be contracting with the Wisconsin Library Service, WILS, to help us with a lot of the curriculum and some of the instruction. And these resulting training curriculum would be made available online through an open educational resource so that anybody can use it. The 3-year grant would allow for ultimately 2 cohorts to go through this program, and will include participants around the state that would go through a competitive application process. The initial 9-month ramp-up period of the grant would allow for recruitment of instructors. We will be looking for mentors, and obviously the projects themselves that will serve as a kind of training grounds of sorts. We hope to learn sometime in August whether this grant will be funded, but again, particularly with the timing of Illinois becoming a service hub for DPLA, we think this is great to try this, to do more training around digitization. There's a lot of interest always in the grants that the state library offers. We know there's so many rich collections out there throughout our state, and to be able to digitize those collections and make them more accessible is a very worthy goal, but it takes training and people that know how to do it. So stay tuned if this grant is funded. I mean, when this grant is funded, we'll be looking for participants, for mentors, for obviously projects, instructors. So there will be a lot of need for people to get on board and be involved with this project. So that is a summary of that. So again, any questions on FOIA Hotline or the grant?
Thank you, Joe.
Okay, thank you.
Any questions about anything that Joe had to say? Anywhere? Up. All right. Very good. Well, so let's see. Next is a topic that I know that you really don't have anything to say about. That would be system membership standards. We spent our last member update, which I skillfully avoided by being in the hospital with pneumonia, discussing the system membership standards, and you had lots and lots and lots of comments, both at the meeting and online afterwards and on our website. So I want to say that we heard you. We heard you over and over and over and loud and clear. And so we've had a couple of meetings of our working group, which consists of me and Veranda and Jane Plath and Amanda Masaccio and Kathy Parker, who is the chair of the committee. We just met on Monday, as a matter of fact, and I think a few of the things that the big issues that you highlighted were the redundancy, which the committee was very well aware of. I'm looking at Julie Rothenflue because she's on the committee, and we just decided as a committee to put everything out there and to see how people felt about it all. So that another big point was measurability. We very much that to heart. And issues of, unfunded mandate, local control versus system control. So at this point, we have greatly reduced the number and the complexity of the standards, where the proposed standards, we like the concept, we sort of adopted the concept of core standards and then, sort of additional. I think that's kind of what the minimum was, or the basic was, but core is a better word and a better concept, clearer, I think. And so we're finalizing our latest draft, and we will be sending that to the whole committee. We're also working on the definitions, sort of a glossary of, what is a collection? Is a collection just what's in your building, or is it your, it's your e-content, it's fees you pay to belong to a consortium? What is a collection? And what is, there's various other terms that clearly need to be defined. So we will then get the committee back together, and we are already, Veranda and I are planning our sort of late summer, fall roadshow to talk more with members about it and see where we are with our latest iteration. I'm happy to take more comments, suggestions, questions from anybody at this point about it, but in all seriousness, I really do appreciate how seriously you're taking this. I know it's controversial, but it's very important, we think. A lot of people think, because of some of the things that have happened in libraries, because we don't have stronger standards. There's not any kind of an attempt to exclude anybody. This is to help libraries by providing training and some teeth, some leverage, perhaps. So, but in any case, happy to hear any comments or questions from anywhere. Anybody?
This is Betsy.
Yes.
You guys hear
Hi,
me?
Betsy.
Okay.
Yep.
I just want to say that as far as the ILA in the public library standards go, I know a lot of people have been asking about the public library standards, and my response has always been, until the system standards get finished up in RAILS, then we will be taking those and we will be lining them up with the public library standards to make sure that they are talking to each other and they're in line with each other. I just wanted you to know that, so in case anybody asks you about that, how those two are going to be working. We do plan on hopefully putting them so they're one document.
Ooh, good. Thank you. Thank you. That's very helpful. That was one of the questions. How does this relate to serving our public? And of course, obviously, these are system membership standards. These are not library standards. So there is a difference in purpose. Any other comments or questions? Anywhere?
Heather's got one.
Heather.
Standards going to be communicated in some way to library schools in terms of like syncing it up with some of their curriculum?
That's a question about communicating it to the library schools. That's a great idea. Yes, I'll say yes. Foot from Dominican is on the committee, but that doesn't mean that it's, we have to do more than that. But yeah, thank you for pointing that out, because I think, particularly in terms of the training that some of the topics that we're proposing would be probably very useful to them to know about, and potentially they could offer some of the courses if we could, or the training, if we could work out the financial arrangement. Other questions anywhere? besides Burr Ridge? Okay, well, you'll be getting something in email in the not too distant future. All right. Yeah, so one of our exciting new is a podcast. So I think I'm going to let Mary talk about this because I'm tired of talking. Mary?
Yes, I also just got a late-breaking question on the standards. Can I ask that first before I jump into the podcast?
Yep.
The question is, I've been working for 17 years, and for the past 4 years, I've been the acting director. I do not have a master's degree. What do the standards mean to me?
Well, that's a complicated question because it's always more desirable for a person to have a permanent job than an acting job, I guess. But let's say that because you are the director, you would have access to the training that will be provided by the system or in conjunction with other organizations that would presumably, the point is to help you understand the many different components of your role as director, including, not least importantly, the things that we all have to do to comply with the various laws and codes in Illinois. So, does that help? I hope that answers your question. You want to say something, Rhonda? Yes?
Another thing we wanted to take back to the larger committee was how to account for years of service and experience for some of the directors we have out there who are also in that situation doing great work.
Absolutely.
Okay, great. Thank you. Jump into the podcast now. We're going to have a new podcast at RAILS. The name of it is Sparks. We're hoping to release it next week. For those of you that are not familiar with a podcast, it's like an audio recording that you can listen to at any time, any place. Two popular ways that people would mainly probably listen to this. It would be posted on our website so that you could click on it and listen to it through our website. Or a more popular way for people to listen to podcasts is like on their smartphone or on their iPad, some sort of mobile device. And they're really handy like for commuters or, if you're exercising, just if you're, have a little block of time where you're looking to listen for something. These are perfect use for podcasts. This particular one is going to feature interviews with either Dee or another RAILS staff member and other people in the library field, possibly members, other library leaders. For example, the first one is going to be an interview that Dee just did with David Celeb, who's the Executive Director of the Oak Park Public Library. And David was talking about how they have hired a full-time professional social worker at Oak Park to replace a contract that they had with an outside private security firm. So it's about a half hour long, and David talks about the benefits of the arrangement, what it's been for the library, what they've been for the community. I've heard it. It's really interesting. And it's one of the trends that's kind of happening in libraries, which is really what Sparks is going to try to feature, trending issues, things that people are talking about, things of that nature. We're intending it to be monthly in the beginning and see how that goes. We certainly will give you full details about it. We'd also love your feedback once you listen to it. You'll be able to subscribe to it so that it'll automatically appear on your mobile device. We're really excited about this as a way, our libraries are always asking, what the trends are and how they can keep up with them. So we're hoping that this will help them with that, and would love your feedback once we roll it out. So watch our e-news next week. That'll probably be the place where we'll announce it, but we are hoping that it'll be live next week. Are there any questions about podcasts or Sparks or? Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Mary. Before we move into the sort of more general feedback portion of the meeting, I must say that I hope that all of you are aware of Ann Craig's recent announcement that she is leaving the State Library to be the Senior Director at CARLI, the Consortium of Academic and Research Libraries in Illinois. Her last day at the State Library will be June 30th, and I believe her first day at CARLI is July 1st, so I'm fascinated by that. Ann obviously has been, a major force in Illinois libraries for a lot of years, and I'm looking forward to working with her at CARLI in a new way, and we will await developments at the State Library. That's for sure. So it's a big change. So that's all I know. I don't. But I wanted to be sure. I know it's been out there, but I wanted to be sure that everybody at this meeting knew about it, because it's important news. So I think at this point we will throw this open for all of you to provide any feedback or to share news at your library, things that are going on. We have a lot of people in this room and in other rooms that are either ending jobs or about to start new jobs. And I don't know if anybody wants to say anything about that or any other news that anybody wants to share. Maybe we'll...
Hi, this is Aurora.
Yes. Yes.
Hi, I'm Daisy Porter Reynolds from Aurora Public Library. Many of you have likely read in the news this... Hi. Many of you have likely read in the news this week that we are experiencing some hard economic times here. We have eliminated 21 positions, 11% of our library staff. We gave layoff notices on Tuesday and announced the news publicly yesterday. It's a difficult time, and I thank you for those of you who have reached out to us. We are pulling through. It's going to be okay. We're doing everything we can for the affected employees, including giving them assistance finding other jobs. So if you work at a library that's near Aurora, and if you have job openings, we have laid off people ranging from page all the way up to manager. So we have quite a few people looking for employment. I would be happy to pass along any job openings to my staff. If you have them, please let me know. Thank you.
To hear that, Daisy, and we will certainly all keep it in mind. And yeah, very sorry to hear that for you, for the community, and for the staff. Are there other things that people would like to share? Anything here?
We've got something here in New Lenox, Dee.
Great.
Hi, Dee. At risk of giving Veranda another opportunity to speak, I will say that with going back to what she was talking about with Career Online High School, we're going to have our first graduates this summer from Career Online High School, and we're going to have a ceremony, and we're going to invite all our local elected officials. So we're really super excited about that.
I have nothing to say about that. Congratulations, and I like speaking. Thank you, Paul.
Thank you, Paul. That's a wonderful program. I think we're really glad we can be involved. Yes, Mary.
You had talked earlier about grants, libraries for collaborative projects.
Yes.
Are they going to be something as simple as, we have a possibility of doing a story walk with the village and producing, is it something a smaller project as that, or we have more than one other, maybe partner?
This, Mary, the question about the collaborative grants the grants for libraries to do collaborative projects. This is very new. It has not been there. We have no criteria yet, but I firmly believe that it will require at least 2 different types of libraries.
Library.
Yes, perhaps I was not clear on how I explained it, but the point is that these will be small, large, whatever, any size projects that will encourage type collaboration. And as I said, Debbie Baskey, she kind of had this, she did have this idea initially. Maybe Debbie would like to speak to it a little bit. Debbie, would you be willing to do that?
Sure, I can do that.
Debbie?
As Dee said, we haven't set the criteria yet, but it would involve different types of libraries collaborating on projects. So it might be a public and a school, or a special and an academic. It could be any combination, but we do need to work out sort of what the criteria would be for these grants, and we'll do that soon. But we wanted to make sure we got this in our plan of service for 2017. So more information to come soon. That's it.
Yes, Heather.
I kind of wanted to put Kathy Parker on the spot to
Oh,
talk
let's.
about the Atlas Standardization Project, talking about libraries
Oh,
working
great.
together.
Yep.
I'm getting the
Kathy,
mic to
go
her. Hang
for
on.
it. Okay.
Go ahead.
Miss you guys, sorry, I'm not there.
All right, Kathy.
What did you know on Heather? What do I need to know?
Did
someone ask me a question?
The Atlas standardization.
Okay.
Yes.
As many of you know, but I'm going to guess the majority of RAILS does not know, the Atlas, which is the little CE group we have going on in the southeast suburbs of Chicago. We are, there's about 11 of us who are looking to standardize all of our checkout rules for libraries. We're not all SWAN libraries. We do have a few standalones in this, and really just an effort for us to make the patrons going from library to library to make their experience more consistent and more pleasurable, hopefully, because they don't have to remember all the different dates. So we've been talking about it for about 6 months. I had a meeting with the SWAN people who, and, behind the scenes, who apparently have to do all this work that I did not realize had to happen. So I just assumed my circ and my tech people did the stuff, but that's why I'm a director and not a technology person. So we met to discuss some of the nuances, some questions we had regarding our hot copies and 1 weeks. But we're looking to do like just a 3-2-1 checkout, 3 weeks, 2 weeks, 1 week for print, AV, and then like our special collections. So we're still working on it, and I'm going to get some stuff out hopefully next week. I've got kind of a crazy week coming up. So does that answer your question, Heather? Anyone else?
Yeah, I just hoping to spread the word.
Yeah, that's
okay.
great to hear.
Well, I appreciate that.
Thanks.
And we are going, SWAN is having a big deal on July 22nd. They're doing a big meeting, and we're going to talk about it at that meeting as well.
Great.
Okay? All right.
All right, thanks Kathy.
Dee?
Yes.
I have 2 things from the streamers. One, someone wants to share something, and then I have a question for Joe. So get ready, Joe. But first, I'll share from Rock Island that just went off the screen here. Native Voices, Native Peoples, Concepts of Health and Illness, a National Library of Medicine traveling exhibit, will be at Unity Point, Trinity, Rock Island, starting in April 2017. So that's just sharing there. And then the question for Joe is about the digitization grant. Will the digital training utilize OCLC Content DM platform, which is available to libraries via First Search?
All I can say now is the short answer that would be yes. But, you know, that 9-month period after getting the grant is when all of those details will be worked out. That's really, we didn't really go to that depth in our grant application. So stay tuned. If we get the grant, it's at that point that all of those details will really be ironed out.
It seems very likely that that would be the case, I would say, but.
Yes.
Yeah.
Hi, this is Nancy from Silvis Library in Coal Valley.
Yes.
I'm very excited. We're under construction right now. We were slated to open on Saturday, June 11th, but of course that is not going to happen. Anyone who has dealt with a construction project probably relates. Our new opening date is Monday, June 20th, and on Saturday, the 25th, we'll have a grand reopening ceremony. So anyone who's in the territory, come visit our library. We're in the Quad Cities.
All right, awesome. Good luck. Congrats.
Thank you.
Other things to share? Anything to ask, comment on, complain about? Why not? Anywhere? Anything more from the streamers, Mary?
No, I think we've covered it. Thank you.
All right. All right, well then, I guess we will adjourn. Our next member update will be September 29th. And I want to thank you all for coming and the great conversation. So have a great summer. If I don't see you before the 29th, although I probably will. Bye.